what's going on, YouTube? It's your girl, Chrissy, with another episode of Cipher Knowledge with Chrissy. It is the season finale, and I'm telling you, I saved the best for last. This is a good one. So thank you for coming on and watching. And I will go ahead and send it over to my guest. I am going to let him tell all about himself. Nelson Tressler, thank you for coming on. Please introduce yourself to the viewers.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Nelson Tressler, and I am the founder and CEO of IGOTSMARTER and the author of the Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, you gonna say something?
No, I mean, you want me to get into it right now?
Yeah, like I told you behind in a pre-show, I always ask everybody what inspired them to do whatever it was, start the foundation, write the book, but like all of it is an inspiration, right? Everything that occurred is an inspiration. So why don't you tell us what exactly it was? What made you write the book, and what made you create the app? Like, where did that come from? What started that? Did he freeze? All right. So until he unfreezes, I don't know. We've been having this for a little bit, every now and again. So I will, at least he's got a nice clear picture while he's frozen. It's great. So Nelson, like he said, is the author of the Unlucky Sperm Club, as well as the founder and CEO of IGOTSMARTER. So I will throw those up right now. So if you go over to IGOTSMARTER.com, what that is, it's a goal achievement program, and it's created to help people succeed in every aspect of life. So if you head over there, there's actually an app that you can download to your phone, and it has like an agenda and a task manager and all these other great components to it that help you initiate and gather together your plan, initiate and execute what it is that you need to do to become successful. Hopefully he'll be back on and we'll be able to get started with his story, because like I said, his story is an amazing story. If you saw all my promos for it, he is originally from Pennsylvania, and he is from Middle Pennsylvania. He is out in Las Vegas now, and prior to him, here he's coming back on. There he goes.
I have no clue. That's never happened, but
it's quite all right. It's quite all right.
We're having a huge windstorm here in Vegas, so I don't know if something like triggered something, but it looks like it's back.
Good. Perfect. So I gave him a little insight into IGOTSMARTER.com, right? So I let them know that it was a goal achievement program and the app. And because I actually went and looked at the app, I was able to tell them what was in the app. Yeah. But why don't you go ahead and take it away and tell us what got you started with everything?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I've got quite the original or unique origin story. My mom got pregnant with me when she was 15 years old. And while she was pregnant with me, her father, who was the local trash collector in a small town in central Pennsylvania, drove into the town square. There he spotted two police officers. He stuck a gun out the window and opened fire on those police officers, killing one and critically wounding another. And eventually my grandfather was captured and brought to stand trial, where he was facing the death penalty. And during his trial, my mom got up on the stand and she testified to the jury that the reason that her father had shot and killed the police officer was that that police officer had raped her, and she was now pregnant with his baby, who was me. And my mom's testimony worked. My grandfather's first trial ended in a hung jury. He was eventually found guilty. They took the death penalty off the table. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, where he ended up spending the rest of his life, more than 40 years, behind bars. Leaving behind, he had a family of 15 children in a small town, and including my mom and now me, in this town of 6,000 people, to live in the consequences of what he had done. Eventually, my mom, I'm born to a 15-year-old mother, and life was not, great for her. But eventually she meets a man who would become my stepfather. Quickly, we find out that he is an alcoholic and very emotionally and physically abusive to me and my mom almost on a daily basis. And that's, my life was going like that. They have 4 children in quick succession. And because of the lifestyle that they're living, a lot of the basic needs of my siblings fall upon me as the oldest, from diaper changing to bottle feeding to waking up at 2 a.m. and putting babies back to sleep. And at this time in my life, my mom would rather me stay home from school and help her with the kids. So in 4th grade, I remember I missed 50 or 60 days of school. And the last day of school, I remember looking down at my report card and being excited and thinking like, oh, who am I going to get for 5th grade homeroom? And I look down and I have straight Fs, and I find out that I'm going to be repeating the 4th grade. And next year, they placed me into special ed. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't spell. Come to find out, I have dyslexia. And that's the way my life went for a while. And then one day, my stepfather was walking home drunk from a bar. There was somebody else driving home drunk from that bar, and they ended up hitting and killing him. And it's at this time, here's my mom. My mom's dropped out of school in the 8th grade. She's never worked outside of the home. And as much as she racked her brain, she could not come up with a way that she was going to care for 5 small children on her own. And it's at this time that she decides that she's going to take her own life. And she attempts suicide. And fortunately, she wasn't successful in the suicide attempt. But when she got out of the hospital, it was at that time that my family got split up. And I went to go live with my grandmother, who was the wife of the man who shot and killed the police officer. And for the first time in my life, there's always food in the refrigerator. The lights turned on every time you turned on the switch. There was heat in the home in the wintertime. And I started to really reflect upon, I was out of the survival mode for the longest time in my life. I was just in survival mode. So I never really reflected upon what type of life I was going to live. And I started to be able to do that when I moved in with my grandmother. And I saw where my life was heading, and it was not heading anywhere great. And one day a counselor came from Penn State University, and they talked about the things that you needed to do to get into college. And I started to think to myself, man, if I could graduate from college, from that day on, my life would be easy. And that was kind of the mindset I had. And then, you know what happens whenever you tell yourself, man, I'm going to try to do something hard, something that's not going to be comfortable. That voice in the back of your head starts to scream at you all the reasons that you shouldn't even attempt it. And I remember thinking to myself, Nelson, you're in special ed. You can't read, you can't write, you can't spell. You have dyslexia. Of my Graham's 15 children, only 2 had ever graduated from high school. None had even gone to college. But I'm like, what do I have to lose? So from that day, I started to kind of work at what I could do to get into college. And 12 years after setting that first goal, 4 different universities, 4 years in the United States Air Force, I finally became that first person in my family to get a college degree.
That is amazing. What was that feeling when you realized that you did it? Like at that moment, like what did you feel?
You know what? I felt emboldened. I felt like, man, there's something to me. I really felt like I had some potential in there that I didn't really realize before. And that really stemmed from that time when I graduated from college. That's when I became obsessed with goals and personal development and realizing that, hey, somebody like me, somebody who had dyslexia, somebody who came from a family that nobody ever went to college and barely anybody would graduate from high school. If somebody like me, by setting a goal and really working on it, could achieve that, what else could I do with goals and personal development? What type of potential, was inside of me? And that's when I became obsessed. I started, to do goals in everything in my life. I started to go to all the seminars I could afford. I listened to every single personal development book that was out there. And I started to just really work on myself and try to become that best version of myself. I realized there was somebody great in there. And that's what I've done over the last 25 years. And I really have built a life that I couldn't have even imagined 25 years ago.
So I want to back up a little bit. Your father's side of the family, or the sperm donors side of the family, did you ever get to connect with them on any level? Was that something that you wanted? Was that something that occurred?
So what I'll say is there are a lot of twists and turns in that story and who my father is. And as I said here today, I'm still not sure who my father is.
Okay. All right. So
But I never connected with them.
no. Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's just hard, right? Like it's just tragic and tragedy on both sides of the end. So my family comes from a world of machismo men. My dad would have probably done the same exact thing without even thinking twice about it. And I get that we can't be vigilantes, um, but then, you know, I don't know. I'm just gonna leave that alone. Allegedly, so you go to college, you join the Air Force, you get out, you feel bolden. Um, we talked behind the scenes, and all my viewers know or don't know that I myself actually have gone, through some circumstances and did not allow it to become who I was. So I know for me, part of me was happy that I became successful, and the other part of me almost felt like my family was maybe a little bit jealous or
Hmm.
not so happy that I was successful. Did you find any of that on your end?
You know what? I never thought it was there. I thought, and I talk about this in my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club, like it's called the crab bucket mentality. And what it is if you put one crab in a bucket next to the sea, that crab can easily crawl out and go back to the sea. But if you put more than one crab in that bucket, when a crab starts to climb out of that bucket, those other crabs will latch onto it and hold it down. And if that crab continues to do that, they'll break its legs. And if it continues to do it after they break its legs, they'll kill it. And that's humans have adopted that. When somebody is striving to make themselves better or to get out of a tough situation, for whatever reason, humans will come up against that person that's trying to do that. And I kind of saw a little bit of that, but then when I wrote my book, I had some cousins come out and call me all kinds of horrible things that I thought we had a great relationship and I thought they were happy for me. And but when the book came out, they were calling me a liar and saying all these things weren't true and questioning my love for my grandmother and just hurtful things. And then at the end, they would say, "Oh yeah, but we love him." And I'm like, "Oh well, there's a different definition of love out there." But and I don't blame. I feel bad for them because when things like that happens, it's not about the person who's gone out and done something. It's about how them going out and doing something has made the people who are back there feel. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like your shine is making them feel their shine dollar, which shouldn't be the case, but I think in a lot of times it is. And you know what? We've got to be careful because I went through the stage of like, man, maybe I shouldn't promote my book if it's making my family feel bad. But there's a Tyra Banks quote in my book, and it's like, never dull your shine just because people are offended by it or whatever. And that's so true. I'm not going to dull my sign. I'm not going to have my goals and my dreams and me wanting to help other people lessen because it's making a few of my family members uncomfortable.
Great. Like I definitely, because I feel like it happens, right? And then depending on what mindset you have, you can either fall to allow your shine to dim, or you can just keep pushing forward. So, what was your aha moment? I have an aha moment. So, what was your aha moment? This has to be done. I have to write this book. I have to create this app. What was it for you?
So I helped I was in commercial real estate. I used goals. I became the number one top salesman worldwide for a top
Whoa.
5 commercial real estate. I started 10 businesses, including one of the largest privately held pet resorts in the country. I had all these successes, and I attributed a lot of it back to being able to set goals and stick with those goals. And so I started, I became known as the goal guy, and people would come up to me and I'd give talks on it. And people would come up to me and say, man, I really need help. And I'd be like, I can talk goals all day long. Let's sit down. And I'd sit down with them for 2, 3, 4 hours, some of them, and I'd help them come up with a plan and, do all these things that worked for me that I learned over the years. And then I'd see them 2 weeks later. I'd be all excited. I'd be like, how are those goals, man? And their head would drop and they'd be like, oh man, I got to get back on it. And it would be like a kick in the gut. And I'm like, oh, you couldn't stick. I spent 4 hours with you. You couldn't stick to it for 2 or 3 weeks. And what I realized was these guys needed some sort of accountability. So I started to become their accountability coach at the time is what I called it. And what I realized was it was a huge for their goal because they would stick with it because they knew I knew. But what I also realized was I thought I was pretty good at goals. It took my goal achievement to the next level. And then I started to do this for 3 or 4 people. I'm not charging anybody. I'm not a coach or anything like that. I'm just helping people. And then it got to be too much. I was too worried about other people and their goals to focus on mine. And then I started this group of 12 guys. And I'm like, I'm starting a group. And I invited all these successful people to come, surgeons and doctors and lawyers and business owners. And we even had some people who were out of work, everybody. And I came up with this program. We did it for, 2 years, and everybody went through the roof in their goal achievement. But when I really knew I was onto something, I would bump into these people's wives, and the wives would come up to me and they'd say, you can never stop that group meeting. My husband is a different man. He's thoughtful. He's courteous. He cleans up around the house. He's getting in shape. He's doing this and all these things. And then a few months after that, the wives of all these men started their own goal group because they saw what an effect it had on their husbands. And that's when I knew I was onto something. And then we did that for a few years, and then people started to move away and the economy got better, and, it kind of went by the wayside. But I always had that in the back of my mind. And then I was able to exit a few of these businesses, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I started to think about my life and why I'd lived the life that I lived. And I'm like, you know what? I lived this life to show other people who are born in tough circumstances that you're not a victim of those circumstances, that you're a product of your choices, and anybody can make it out. And then that's when I decided to write the book and to start this program, I Got Smarter, and take it out to the world to help other people achieve their life's biggest goals.
That's awesome. I want to get to a comment here from 2M1L Media. The fact that you're even sitting here sharing your story after everything you have been through is very inspirational, let alone all your success.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this with your story and my story, and it is, and I don't know that you think about it while you're going through it and while you're just working and just putting your head down and like, you know what, I'm not going to end up like that. And one thing in my life, I had my gram. I live with my gram, and we had that special bond. My mom had me when she was 15 years old, so my first few years was living with my grandma and my mom in my gram's house. And almost every day of my life, my gram would look at me and she would say, Nelson, you're going to make something out of your life. And she told me that so often, and she believed it so wholeheartedly that was one of the things that I'm like, you know what, I am. And I'm going to do it for her and so many other reasons. But the fact that she knew that and she saw that in me, I wanted to make her out to be true.
So it's so funny. You had your grams. I had my Kazik, and my Kazik is my maternal grandfather. He was Native American Indian, and in his tongue that meant Indian chief. We were not allowed to call him grandpa. If we called him grandpa, we got disowned. So he was definitely my support system, my cheerleader. And I feel like it is really important for, at least for me, for a young single mom, to have that support system behind you cheering you on versus tearing you down. So it's great that, and I think grandparents are just so important, period. Um, I have 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way, and I'm so active in their life. I feel like if they have both parents and then both sets of grandparents, like the world is unstoppable for children. So definitely. So what is I Got Smarter?
So I Got Smarter is a full-blown goal achievement program. It goes from every aspect of it from, we start off with a self-assessment, which goes through. First, we start with the individual. I Got Smarter as an acronym, and each one of those letters makes us, think about something in that goal setting and goal achievement process. It's not just a goal setting program. That's been out there for years, and people can set good goals. They just weren't seeing them through to the end. So this was something that was going to have people actually achieve their goals. So the I starts with the individual staring back at you in the mirror. Everything starts and ends with the type of person that you are and the type of person that you become. So we always start with that individual, becoming that version of yourself that can achieve that goal. So we're always working on that. But we go through a self-assessment program that really spells out the program. It also makes sure that you're working on goals that are important to you, not important to the world or your spouse or your children or anything like that. These are your goals. We teach you how to break big, huge goals down into what we call 4-week sprints. We don't call them accountability partners. We call them success partners. So through the app, you're able to invite a success partner that sees real time what you're doing in the app. Every morning, you plan out your day. Every morning you have a morning ritual, and you start off with gratitude, and you start off with a success principle, and you're really planning out your day. You're really planning that extraordinary life that you want to live each and every morning. And you're planning what you need to do to accomplish your goals. And by the time you're done with this morning ritual, which takes you about 10 minutes at the most, your entire day is planned out for you, what you need to do to achieve your goals. And then at night, we have an evening ritual, and that's giving you the opportunity to reflect upon the choices that you made, because our life is a sum of our choices. And this program helps you make those choices that are going to make a difference. We make so many choices in a day that really don't make a difference in our overall lives. This program helps you focus on those choices that are going to make a huge difference in your life.
That's great. Listen, so I am a big write down person. I'm a big get the journal, get a book, write it down, right? You got it there? Yes. Huge, big write it down. I find that I hold myself more accountable when I've got it written down on paper. And definitely not in pencil, but in pen, right? Because I don't want to be able to erase anything and pretend that it wasn't there when I actually had it there. So I'm big with that. I find that I do get more done towards my goals when I have it written down versus just saying this is what I'm going to do. Now, for this app, I have a 14-year-old who has 1,001 goals. So he's my little entrepreneur. He does graphic editing. He does my digital editing. He does photography. He does logo creation, graphic design. Like, he does all this stuff at 14. Okay. Edits other people's podcasts, all of this. He has so much that he wants to do, but then he puts everything on his plate and then doesn't have enough time. Do you recommend this app for someone who's that young?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing is, if you have 1,000 goals, you really have no goals because there's no focus there. Okay. And that's one of the things that we do too, is we work everything in a 4-week sprint. So you're working 4 weeks, you're setting, but we only work on 3 goals at a time. And that doesn't mean you can't have other goals. That doesn't even mean you can't be working on other goals. But we hyper focus on 3 goals at a time for 4 weeks. Now, the great thing about a 4-week sprint is sometimes I'll realize, you know what, I'm not treating my wife as good as I should be. This next 4-week sprint, I'm going to make her one of my goals. And you know what? I hit that weight that I don't ever want to go over. This next 4-week sprint, I'm really going to focus on my health. So it gives you that opportunity to constantly be evaluating and then readjusting what your goals are. That doesn't mean I don't have 1,000 goals. I feel like I'm your son, just a few years older, because I'm just like that. Like I have 1,000 things that I want to do. But what I found out is when you have 1,000 things you want to do, you're really focused on none of them. So when I focus on 3 goals for 4 weeks, I know exactly what needs to be done. I'm hyper focused on those goals and I hit those goals. And then I have that opportunity to take a step back and say, okay, I need to continue this one. I want to do this in the next 4 weeks on this one. I feel pretty good with my relationship right now. Let me shift this over to something else, maybe a spiritual goal, maybe a lifestyle goal. And I'm going to do this with this one. So you're constantly able to adjust that, but you always have that hyper focus. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen in people failing with their goals is they have too many goals out there and they're not really focused on it. So, and some people feel like, well, geez, only 3 goals. Well, when you have 1,000 goals, you get to the end of the year, you're probably not meeting very many of those because you're so scattered. But when you're focused on 3 goals, you're constantly hitting those 3 goals every 4-week sprint.
So you answered my next question, which is, why do you think most people fail at their goal-oriented task?
We'd need 2 hours. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, setting annual goals, we just got through 2020. Could anybody predicted that? And what happened in March? People set those annual goals, and then in March 2020, they just threw their hands up. And what happened? They wasted the last 9 months. A lot of people have wasted the last 9 months because it didn't go the way it was planned. When you set a 4-week sprint, now you're only 4 weeks into anything when something changes in your life. And at the end of that 4 weeks, you get to evaluate, which is the E in I Got Smarter at the end. And then you get to readjust, which is the R at the very end. And when you're constantly doing that, you're not wasting time, because in the I Got Smarter program, time is our most precious resource. We should never waste it, waste a minute of it. So we never want to do that. But yeah, so that's one of the things. I think people set annual goals. There's a lot of other things in there. I mean, the support system, I think you have a 95% more likelihood of reaching your goal if you have some sort of a G group or support system, and that's built into the I Got Smarter program. We've kind of patched all the holes. The only way that you can fail in this program is to quit, and we make it hard for you to quit. So we've kind of patched all those holes that most people fall into when they don't achieve their goals.
Awesome. So there are groups that you can find within the app that'll assist you. You don't need to have friends, because they usually don't support it.
Well, with COVID, before COVID, we had 6 months to success, which we're launching again in May through Zoom. But believe it or not, a year ago, it feels like Zoom is the normal thing now, right? Everybody knows about it. Yeah, of course, but back then, it never even crossed our mind to do virtual meetings with 6 months to success. But 6 months to success, people met in groups, and we rotated success partners. And then when COVID struck, we couldn't do that anymore. But now we're going to relaunch that in May. May is recommitment month. So if you're ready to recommit, May is the month to do that. So we're going to relaunch that program. But in the I Got Smarter app, you invite a person to be your success partner in that app. So there's 2 different apps out there.
So what do you think it takes for an individual to even take that step towards saying, I'm gonna do this goal thing? There are so many people that are resistant to even setting those goals because they're so afraid of that failure part. If we have friends or family, what advice can we give them to just give them that little nudge and push to say, hey, look here, this might help?
Yeah, I mean, the program will help. But seeing that potential in yourself, I mean, everything that's out there now started with some sort of a goal. And you can live your life with purpose and direction, or you can just be blown about the winds of the world. And I think that's the way most people will do it. And they don't want to take that responsibility that they understand that they're in control. When you believe that you're in control, when you believe that your choices make a difference, then all it is focusing those choices on what you want to manifest in your life. And the way that you manifest things in your life is you start to make those type of choices. And that's what this program helps you do. I mean, I know this is some a tough statement, but you are exactly where you choose to be right now. You're exactly where you choose to be. I know there's some situations out there that are maybe out of our control, but for the most part, you're exactly where you choose to be. And if you don't like that, start to make different choices. And that's what this program will teach you to is start, it's like a hand of cards. We get that hand of cards dealt to us in life. And we saw that one comment from your listeners that it's a miracle that I'm sitting here after everything. Well, I just threw that hand of cards in that I got dealt, and I got shuffled a brand new hand of cards. And I continue to do that. I continue to discard and get new cards every time I make different choices. And that's all of us have the ability to do that. All of us get to choose what we want in this life. And it may take a long time. It may take a year. It may take 5 years. But if you continue and consistently make those type of choices, you reap what you sow.
So I've been told often, right? Because that's the individual that I am. I mean, I've overcome a lot, health wise, as well as just, I beat diabetes after 14 years of insulin, dropped 60 pounds, got rid of it. Haven't been, my doctor didn't think I could do it. And I get told often, not everybody's like you. That's just your personality. Like, not everybody has that in them. And I call bullshit on it.
Yep.
I think that I call bullshit on it. I find, I work with the geriatric population in hospice and home care. And, sometimes I get some young people. I have a young girl on a case, and she's about to lose her feet, and she won't care for them. And I look at her and I tell her, I'm the no nonsense nurse. I tell her, so do you want your feet or you don't want your feet? Like your choice, right? Like, you have the ability to say, I'm going to do better, and not make excuses on why I can't. Like, I can't change my own dressings. No, bullshit. You can change them. You just choose not to. So when you lose your feet, like, it's nobody else's fault but your own. What do we do with that victim mindset?
Yeah, I think it's running rampant right now in our country is the victim mindset. But I think, I think once people realize how important their choices are, and you touched on some things. I think a lot of people out there are perfectionists when it comes to their goals. Like, they have a bad day or a bad week, or heaven forbid, a bad month, and they throw their hands up and they're like, I suck at this, instead of getting back on it. Every single day you got to make that choice. And that's one thing that I Got Smarter program does, is it has that success partners. You're going to have a bad day. We understand that. You're going to have a bad week. There's going to be a week where maybe you get sick, or maybe you're just like, you know what? I want to sit on the couch and binge watch Netflix and eat gallons of ice cream. Okay, get it out of your system. Realize that that's not what you really want to do. And then let's get back on it Monday. And your success partner will be there. The program will be there. But so many people do that for a day or a week, and then all of a sudden it turns into a month, and then it turns into a year, and then it's a lifestyle. And that's all they have to realize is we're going to fail. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have bad weeks. We're going to have bad months, maybe a bad year. But that doesn't, your past does not dictate what your future is. And as soon as we realize that, I mean, we're sitting here having this conversation because our past did not dictate what our future was going to be. If you ask anybody who came from our past where we were going to end up, it's sure the heck not here inspiring other people, right? So we're proof. This show is proof that your past does not have to be your future. And no matter where you're at, if you're 40 or you're 60 or you're 80, you still have those choices to make. And if you're 80, then have the best, 10 years of your life. You still have that ability. Or if you're 60.
People 104.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm a big slogan person. So one of my things, I'm always thinking of inspirational, thoughts and idea. And I restarted my fitness journey again because I fell off with COVID and everything. And one of the things I told, I put on my page was starting over doesn't mean you failed. It means you loved yourself to do it again.
Yeah, I love that.
So you just have to, you learn from failure. One or two things are going to happen, right? You're either going to learn a lesson on how to do it and learn another lesson on how not to do it, right? So there's going to be growth that comes out of failing. I think someone who's never failed hasn't really experienced anything, right?
You know what? I have trouble with the word failure because I'm still alive, and I look back and I'm like, I don't, have things not gone my way? Absolutely. Have I not reached goals in the right time or the way that I wanted to? Absolutely. But I look at it as learning experiences. Like, this is all a learning experience. I'm not done yet. So how can I have failed in anything? And that's the way that I look at it. Is this is a process. Life is to be, you're learning here. That's why we're on this planet, is to learn and to grow. And there's ups and downs in that learning and growing, but that doesn't mean you fail. If you fall 1,000 times, get up one more time and keep going. Did you fail when you fell? I don't know if I call that failure. I call that learning.
Yeah, there you go. See, and that was always my thing when I started something new, and I had a girlfriend who like really put it in perspective for me when, especially when I started the podcast. She said, "So what if you go like from 100 viewers to 10 viewers? Would you call that a success or a failure?" And she made me like sit back and really look at it. And I, normally, naturally, I would say that's a failure. I failed. I lost not, what was it, 90 viewers, right? And she was like, but you're still teaching 10 people. Like, so how is that a failure? You're still out there providing information for other people to receive. Perspective is a lot of it as well, right? Being able to go ahead.
You like slogans. One of my favorites is things only have the meaning you're willing to give them. And that is everything in life. No matter what happens to you, you get to assign it meaning. And from going from 90 down to 10, I mean, what meaning can you give that? Is, you know what? I got rid of 80 people who didn't like my content, and now they're able to go listen to somebody else's content and change their lives and make their lives better. Somebody else who's going to connect with them better. But the 10 that are here, I'm changing their lives. And now I can focus on that and they can focus on me. So, I mean, there's so many of those things that we get to step back and say, okay, let me give this a positive meaning. And there's some things you've got to get creative to give a good meaning to. Believe me, I've been there, done that. But that's one of the things that's changed my perspective on life, is I get to give meaning to this. And I dig deep and hard and look at it from a lot of different angles. But almost every time I can give it a positive meaning. And if I give it a positive meaning, guess what? It's positive. And that same thing that happened to me, like the circumstances of my birth, for the longest time, I never told anybody about that. My wife was the only person that knew that. I told her that before I married her. I figured she needed to know. I never told my kids, never told my friends. I moved away to Las Vegas, never moved back to that town. So nobody knew that. But then when I started this new program, then I gave those events a different meaning. I lived through that so that I could help other people. Same events, same things happened to me, the same things that used to weaken me, that I would dread anybody bringing up. Now I'm out there on the podcast for the whole world to hear. And the only thing that's changed is I gave it a different meaning. And we can do that with anything in our lives.
Absolutely. So there was a moment for me, and it was a pivotal moment for me. And I tell my uncle about it, and he apologized. And I was like, please don't apologize. But I was, I got pregnant at 14, had my daughter at 15. So I'm 15 years old with this big round 9-month belly sticking out. And my uncle walks over to me and he was like, just another fucking statistic, and walked away. And that like just went from the top of my head to the tips of my toes. And that's when I said, bullshit, No, I'm not. Watch me. And it was from that moment that I changed the narrative. I changed the narrative of what my story was going to be and said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be my mother. I'm not going to relive the cycle and make it go over and over and over again. It stops here with me right now. And I did that. Fortunately enough, I ended up becoming successful. But my daughter, got married, then had a kid, has 3 degrees, bought her home. So she essentially stopped the cycle. Like, I still had part of that, but it's definitely the spin that you put on it and what you want to take from it. You can look at everything always in 2 different ways. I have, like I said, I'm a hospice and home care nurse. And with my hospice patients, some of them are ready to go, and they're just like, I'm ready to go. Like, why am I not going? And I tell them all the time, well, there's still purpose for you. There's still something here on this earth that you haven't done that you need to complete. And they're like, well, what can it be? And I'm like, maybe it's meeting me. Like, maybe I'm your purpose. But I think that if we all can find our purpose in this world and try to put that silver lining on everything, even when it's about, like, when I'm running late for work and I'm like, oh, why didn't I get up earlier? I'm going to be late. But, the flip side of it is maybe I didn't wake up early because I would have been in a car accident if I would have left on time. Or maybe I would have been stuck in traffic if I would have left on time. So it's just trying to put that, it's hard. It's hard to do it. But it's definitely something I think we need to do in our day-to-day because it can easily go bad really fast. So
can I add to your breaking the cycle?
yes.
That's the great thing with goals, is goals are not just for that person. When you set that goal to show your uncle that I'm not going to be a statistic. When you set that goal, it didn't just affect you, it affected your children. And now it's affecting their children. Goals are generational. And that's the power. That's why I want to show people how to set goals and achieve goals. Goals are generational. I mean, I'm living proof of that as well. Like, I was born to a 15-year-old mother. I have my children are totally different from where I am because of that one goal. And that's what the power we're dealing with. It takes that one decision. It takes that one choice. It takes that one goal to start living that life. And I think another hard thing for people is they want to change their lives overnight. And you know what? It's hard to do that. But what you can do is you can change the direction of your life overnight. And when you told your uncle you weren't going to do that, you didn't change your life overnight, but you changed the direction of your life. Right then and there, you changed the direction of your life. And that's the same thing that I did. And then you kept making those choices consistently, and then you started to change your life. And that's what people need to understand, is it's that consistency. Make that decision, change the direction of your life, and then keep making those choices to head in that direction.
How much of heading in that direction do you believe falls in place with the people you have around you?
You're the sum equal of the 5 closest people in your life. I totally believe that. And that's why I got smarter. The second letter is G. It's that support system. And, you talked a little bit about weight. If you're hanging out with people who like to eat, triple cheeseburgers and 2 fries and 2 milkshakes, chances are it's going to be hard for you to control your weight because those are the people you're around. But if you're around people that if you order a cheeseburger and they're ordering a salad and they're going to raise an eyebrow at you when you do that, you're probably going to be a little more conscious of what you order. And that's everything. I think it's your morals and your standards and your health and your wealth and your lifestyle. It's those people that you hang out with. And if those people aren't adding to your hopes and your dreams, sometimes the best thing that you can do is find a new group of people. And I know it's hard, and you'll have haters because you're not hanging out with people who don't have your standards or your values. But it's going to be next to impossible to fulfill your dreams and goals if you're hanging around and spending most of your time with people who are living far below where you want to live in any area of life.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. That was one of the second steps I had to take in realizing that if in order for me to be successful, I needed to surround myself around successful people. And I did get the nose up in the air and the, you think you're better than me. And you know what? Hey, I know I want to be better than I was yesterday. So in order to do that, I need to be around people that are doing the things heading in the direction I want to go in.
And that's another great point, Christy, is you're only comparing yourself against that person in the mirror. That otherwise you're never going to be happy with your life, because there's always somebody who has it better than you, but there's also somebody who has it worse than you. So depending where you're looking, if you're looking, oh, you know what, my life's not too bad. I mean, look at this guy, he's just done this or done that that's bad. So I'm not doing too bad. So you'll get into that comfort zone. Or if you're striving for more and then you look out and, there's Jeff Bezos, with 100 gazillion dollars, and you're like, just when you think you're doing okay. So the only person you should ever be competing against, and you should be competing against them, is who you were yesterday. Am I better than I was yesterday? And if you were, you're heading in the right direction. If you're not, you know what? Evaluate and readjust.
Absolutely. I say it all the time. I am a big proponent of helping and supporting and, all the people that I surround myself with. And I never want to, I'm never trying to be better than them. I just want to be happy in the station in life and the season in life that I'm in. And like we were saying, I said to you backstage was, I'm not as successful as you, but I am successful in my own right. And I'm very comfortable with where I am in life. And, even at times I had a friend of mine, he had to remind me a couple of times, because I don't think about it. Like you said earlier, that people who kind of have circumstances and just go through life, they don't sit back and think about where they came from. They just keep going, right? And they just keep moving forward. And he would have to remind me a couple of times. He's like, do you remember when you did this? And like you created a business plan and at 21 and you were going to go do a proposal to the Board of Education in New York. Like you are one little person, yet you're sitting there at 21 creating a business plan. He was like, you don't give yourself enough credit. And I think that's something else that we have to do too, is give ourselves credit for the things that we have accomplished, no matter how small, right?
You know what? One of the things that we teach is you have to be your own biggest hero. I mean, there is no amount of cheering from the sidelines that can get you to where you have the potential of going if you're not your own biggest hero. And if you're down on yourself, there's no amount of cheering from the sideline that's ever going to get you, beyond you talking down to yourself. And I know it's not fashionable to be your own biggest hero, but that's the one thing that you need to learn is I am my own biggest hero. I'm my biggest fan. I want to reach my potential, and my potential is different than anybody else's potential. So I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. I'm comparing myself to what I have the potential to do. And what people will quickly realize when they start to do that is the potential that lies within each one of us is more than we could ever imagine.
Absolutely. And there, I will put a little caveat there, which says there is a fine line between arrogance, okay, and being your biggest hero. There is a fine line between there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can get out there and be arrogant. I'm talking about being your own biggest fan, believing in yourself, believing that you can do anything. Arrogance, I think, crosses the line when you start comparing that whatever, your knowledge, your status, your this, your that. That's when it becomes arrogance. But I think when you are your biggest fan, you're believing what you're able to accomplish. That's nothing that you put in people's faces.
Awesome. So we're getting ready to head into that 1 hour mark. So please tell everybody where we can find you. Where can we find your book?
Yeah, you can go to nelsontressler.com. Everything is there. You can find my book, The Unlucky Sperm Club. You are not a victim of your circumstances, but a product of your choices. Anywhere books are sold, but probably the easiest is Amazon. And if you like listening to books, it's on Audible. Which I listen to all my books. So,
is it in your voice?
It is in my voice, which was one of the most humbling experiences ever, because I've listened. That's all I do is listen to books. And then you start to record it and you hear your voice, and everybody hates their voice anyhow. And I have dyslexia, so I'm trying to read my own words. And it was a struggle, but I feel like it came out good. And I was glad I listened to them and put it in my voice so that people could get that. And then the app is available on both Apple and Android at the app stores. It's IGOTSMARTER.com. It's also available there, but it's IGOTSMARTER, all one word, and you can get it there. And then, like I said, if you're looking for a little more support and a little more hand holding in achieving your goals, come May, we are starting back up 6 months to success. That's the number 6 months, the number 2 success.com.
Awesome. So I always ask everyone this question at the end of the show, and that is, if you can leave the viewers with one piece of lasting advice, what would that be?
You know what? I usually say, if you've been inspired, do it now. Start where you're at and do it now. But I want to change it up a little bit, because I've been thinking about the long game. And I was thinking, I went, I was able to go away and go snowmobiling this last weekend, and my wife couldn't go. And I got up in those mountains and I was thinking, you know what? I am so happy that I chose the long game in so many areas of my life. It was a Monday and I was able to be up there snowmobiling because I chose the long game in my career and with my businesses. And even though it got hard and it was rough, so I was happy I chose the long game in my health, because I was able to do that as long as I wanted to. And then my wife wasn't able to go. Her grandmother was sick and she was staying home and taking care of her, but she never blinked an eye. She didn't think that I was going to do something that I shouldn't be doing, because I didn't choose. I chose the long game in our relationship and in our marriage. And so that would be the advice. I'm going to switch it up. Choose the long game, because you will benefit. It might take longer. It might be a little bit harder work, but one day it's going to come all together, and you're going to be so grateful that you looked to the future and made those decisions that was going to create that life that you wanted to live a year, 5 years, 10 years from now.
Awesome. Listen, Nelson, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story, inspiring story at that, and just, letting people know that you can do it. Like, there's only you are holding you back. You are the only barrier to your success, right? So me and my slogans, I'm just going to start making homework cards. So,
love it.
So thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank the guests and the viewers for watching. If you are a first-time viewer and you like what you saw, make sure you hit and subscribe and hit that notification button so you know when I'm going live. Reminder, this is the season 2 finale. I will be back mid-April, but please make sure you just watch all the other episodes. You got enough time to catch up and watch what's going on. I will have some special stuff on my Facebook page. I started a small business edition, so I'm promoting some of my friends who have small businesses, did 15-20 minute kind of commercial with their products and stuff. I'm all about support. We can all eat. We may not have to sit at the same table, but we can definitely all eat. So I'm going to leave you guys with what I always leave you at the end of the show, which is, if all you've experienced is all you know, then you are in a deficit of knowledge. Thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you for joining in the Cipher, and I will see you in April. One love.